So as we get ready to get started, we are now ready to get started. So good morning, West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. Welcome out. Beautiful Sunday morning, the sun shining. This is Arizona weather now. This is the good stuff. So we'd like to welcome you here, and we start the service with a song called This Is the Day. If you'd please rise and join singing with us this wonderful song to bring up the spirit, we'd greatly appreciate you.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that He sees, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working His way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister here, and I want to welcome you here on this beautiful Sunday morning. And I was listening, and I heard Ron say, "Merry Christmas," and I'm like, "What? Christmas is behind us. It's Happy New Year!" So, yeah, yeah, it's okay. So we are moving into the new year, so very exciting. But we still have a few things to get done this year. So I'm going to start off with Reverend Sue. She wants to talk a little bit about the Burning Bowl ceremony this coming up.
Thank you. So once again, I'll be doing the Burning Bowl ceremony on the 31st at 6. But this year we're adding a little bit to it. For those of you who have participated in the spiritual practice on Thursdays, spot on. And there's a box where you put those things which you needed to release into that box. When we're done with the ceremony in here, for those who want to leave, they're welcome to, but we will also go outside and burn that entire box. It's sealed, so nothing has come out of it. I've managed to get some little fire starters inside of it to make sure that it burns. But that will be an additional part of the ceremony, which I'm very much looking forward to know that not only the heaviness of those who have been here with us, we have a chance to let go of and release, but that which has been let go by others, here or not, we can also give back to the void from which it came. So I would love to have you join us, and I'll be doing the word ceremony the first Sunday of the year, so we should have a good time. New Year's is my time.
Thanks, Sue. I think it's going to be a burning bonfire. Yeah. So. Yeah. So please join us on the 31st for a beautiful experience of letting go of 2024. So I also want to remind everybody on Saturday, which is next Saturday, January the 4th, we need to take down all of these beautiful, lovely decorations. So if you're available around 9 a.m., we would love for you to come in and help us pull everything down. All we're going to do is take it down and put it in the back of the room, and then Mark and I will take it upstairs. So if you're able to come in this Saturday, that would be absolutely wonderful. And then the last thing I want to remind everybody is, and I forgot to bring the book out, but the Abundance book that we gave out as a gift during our pledge program this year, we are reminding everybody starting in January the 6th, from 6 to 6:30, the information's it'll be in the newsletter. It'll also be on the website. We're going to be doing an abundant spiritual practice every day for 40 days. And so we're asking you to join us in this beautiful experience. It's a 30-minute call. You're going to call in on the phone. It's only 30 minutes, so we're just going to get a little jolt of abundance affirmations and to get us set and grounded in 2025. So again, it starts on January 6th for 40 days from 6 to 6:30. And I'll remind you again next Sunday as well. So, all right, so that's all of our wonderful announcements. So let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So just sit back, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So just take a deep breath, relax as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my life.
And I will wait upon the
Lord,
wait upon the Lord.
I will make a quiet place
this quiet place, in this place where spirit abounds. I know that each and every person here has come with an open heart, an open mind, with a desire to expand the understanding of who they are, and know that in this moment we are all connected to that one power, one presence, one experience, an energetic extraordinariness of the divine that is pure peace and joy, love, happiness, harmony, wisdom, clarity, kindness, compassion, and so, so very much more. I know that in this moment, that divine energy lives and moves and has its being in, through, and as me, as it does every moment. It is in, through, and as everyone, everywhere. So I give thanks knowing that this day is already perfect in the mind of God, that the expression of this service is divinely inspired and directed, that Reverend Karen's heart and mind are wide open, and the message she gives us today is inspired by that divine energy, that as always the Bradford's music lifts us and opens us and touches us in ways that is unique to each. I give thanks knowing that as we move forward, we do so with a sense of excitement, enthusiasm, expectancy of good, good, and more good. That as we close this year and make way for the new, that everything, unlike this beautiful, exquisite divine energy, has already begun to fall away with grace and ease. So I give thanks knowing that as we release this into that beautiful synchronicity of both love and law, that the universe has already said yes. And so it is. And at this time of year, I always have In the Flow of Life by Eric Butterworth in my hand. And this is from the chapter called The Art of Getting Along. And in it, he's talking about how much you can receive with a closed hand versus an open hand, with making room for more. And so in this piece, he says, now take a few moments in quiet reflection. Sit comfortably in your chair with your hands held loosely in your lap for this time with palms up and hands cupped together. Then let something like this thought move easily through your consciousness as an affirmative prayer. Here I am, Spirit. Use me as an instrument of your love, an agency of your peace. I am in the flow of life. I relate easily and lovingly and patiently and understandingly with all persons. I know that no matter what any person is or does, what I am and what I do can most certainly enable me to get along. It may mean that I will get along easily with the person, or it may mean that I will let them go and get along without them. But in every case, I know that my responsibility is simply to keep in the flow, to keep seeing with the eyes of love, to be willing to receive, and to be responsive to the all-sufficient flow of life, love, peace, and wisdom. I go forth in this joyous certainty that wherever I am and whatever person or situation that may come to me today, it will be good, for I will be in the flow of good. And if I should have even a fleeting moment of concern, I will simply let go and let flow. So allow that flow of peace and love and happiness and harmony flow to you and through you. So it is.
So we're going to sing an oldie but a goodie today, and Angel will have the lyrics up here. Let there be peace on earth.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be.
With God as our power, loved ones all are we.
the moment now. With every step that I take, let this be my joyous vow.
To
Take each moment, live each moment, at least eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Yes. We say yes to peace. Good morning. Welcome to the very last Sunday of 2024 in the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I am so happy because I'm on vacation next week. It's the last Sunday that there will be a Sunday service in this sanctuary, and I'm delighted that I could be here to deliver it because I always choose peace as my closing topic for the year. It feels to me, and every year that feeling is a little more intense, but it feels to me that this season is such an important time to remember that peace is possible. So I have chosen for the title of my message, Peace at the Center, because all of life starts from that withinness, that place of the center of our very own being. And I found this quotation from Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, The Science of Mind, and these words are fabulous. Holmes said, "Above the wind, higher than the whirlwind, enshrined in the heart of God, there is a voice within you that says, 'Peace. Be not afraid of this. It is I. This I is you. This you is the God within you, and this God within you is peace.'" What beautiful, beautiful words, that above the wind, enshrined in the heart of God, there is a voice reminding us that right where we are, peace is. So I say yes to peace. I say yes to love. I say yes to joy. I say yes to these great, wonderful, divine qualities as we prepare ourselves to step into a brand new year and a brand new season in all of our lives. I say yes to peace and flow and beauty for this spiritual community. I affirm these things with a proud confidence, with a really excited anticipation for this new year that we're about to experience. We are embarking on a journey that does indeed begin from within. And so in 2025, our theme for the entire year, this spiritual community we have selected for our theme the idea of being rooted, like a tree that can grow tall because it has deep roots. We are rooted in truth. We are rooted in spiritual principles. We are rooted in God's love, in the presence and the power of that love, knowing that in God all things are possible. So we will be focusing all year long on being rooted in principles and practices that have sustained us so well and will continue to guide us through a whole new season. So we remember God is the center of all of life. It's a good place to anchor ourselves. I wanted to just tell you, Dr. Ernest Holmes published his first book in 1919 when he was 32 years old. That book is called The Creative Mind. In that same year, at the end of that year, he published his second book, Creative Mind and Success. And these two books, they're little books, but boy, they have remained powerful and succinct and on point, and nothing in them is irrelevant today. perhaps the language. I mean, we don't quite talk that way that they used to talk. But imagine being 32 years old and being able to understand spiritual principle as a method, as a way that you can see that there's this creative process to life. And the deeper we go in our understanding of spiritual principles, the more it's transformational in the way that we choose and live and show up in our own lives. And so Dr. Holmes gave us this wonderful gift. And by the way, he would just hate how much I love him. He never wanted to, he used to always go, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a saint, and I didn't make up anything new. He just kind of repackaged spiritual ideas that he took from every spiritual tradition and religion. Not every, but he studied the great faiths and the great philosophers. He was intrigued with psychology even in its early days, and he combined it all in saying that there was this eternal thread, that you could find this thread of truth in every spiritual tradition, and I love that part of our teaching. It is one of the things that attracted me in my early days of study on this path was I just loved that I have Jewish people that sit here on a Sunday morning, but they still worship at temple, or that we have Catholics that go to Mass, that we have agnostics. That I love it when an atheist comes up to me after Sunday service and says, I'm only here because I came with her. But I gotta say, you didn't say anything that offended me. I love it because the God that the atheist doesn't believe in is the same God I don't believe in, right? We understand God from a very different perspective, from a much higher level of knowing and understanding and embodying the truth that this presence and this power is an infinite intelligence, a wisdom in which it is not lacking or missing in any way or any space. There is no place where God is not. And that includes that eternal inner wisdom within us. So instead of just believing God is some kind of an entity outside of us, we see that there's a wholeness to life, and that intelligence in the whole of life is that which governs this whole universe and keeps the planets in their sweet little formations so we can go out and find Orion on a night where the stars are perfect to see. That's always true. That doesn't change. So in the practices that have been developed in this philosophy through the years that Dr. Holmes understood and put in an eloquent way, a methodology and formulas we use for the way that we do affirmative prayer instead of begging and beseeching God, and the ways that we have the power to change our mind and to tap into that inner peace within us no matter what's going on in the outer world. These are all tidbits of wisdom that have been prepared for us to use in a regular way. And we talk about every Sunday here in this sanctuary, or if you're listening online, you don't have to be anywhere anymore to hear a Sunday message, do you? But we know how to get back to peace when there's been chaos in our lives. And we know how to return to love when we've had upsets or hiccups in our relationships. We know that when life gets messy, that there's a truth that's greater than any of the appearances. And we can always be looking at how to release our limited ways of thinking and believing. We have ways of reversing the ways that we have constricted our thought patterns so that we can think in broader and bigger ways, and that's how we find peace. Dr. Holmes said, "Only as you let go of the lesser can you take hold of the greater. Then you can entertain peace. It is then that you are lifted to the hilltops of the inner life." So that's what we're here to talk about today, the inner life. How do we find that center of peace in our own living? And I would say, as we start at the beginning, it has to do with that idea of withinness. I used to go crazy when I first started studying this teaching and they took ordinary words and put N-E-S-S at the end of them. It made me crazy. Or how they capitalized strange in strange places. But once you pick it up, it's like learning a language. And withinness now has meaning to me. When I think of withinness, I think of the way we look at that picture or maybe even hold an acorn in your hand. And you know that something in that acorn, an intelligence in that acorn is already a magnificent, mighty oak tree. Or the way that in that similar fashion, you look at these patterns and see that they're universal. The way that a womb within a woman grows a child. Or the way a bird builds a nest and lays eggs, and in those eggs are embryos of baby birds growing so that they can hatch and sprout wings and learn to fly. There's an innate wisdom in life that knows how to do these things. And in the same way, as we look at all these ways that life works, in that same way, the tiniest little thought we might have, a remote imagining, can be a seed thought that turns into something. Imagine the person that first dreamed of building a cathedral, a mighty structure with intricate architecture. And it's just a thought in somebody's mind. But the thought keeps tickling the mind until we can't let it go. And pretty soon we're taking action and looking for ways to create those things that are popping in our minds. And why does that happen? How does a single mind catch a seed vision, have a seed thought that could eventually become something as magnificent as a temple or a cathedral? Here's what Dr. Holmes said about it, and I love this quote. I actually, in my very first copy of The Science of Mind, it was a hardback that had a cover, but if you took the cover off of it, you could write on the cover. I wrote this quote on the cover of my very first Science of Mind book. You can barely see it. It's pretty worn away. Within, in that vast realm of thought, where the soul meets God, the Spirit knows. And I shall listen to that voice, and it shall tell me of life and of love and of unity. I have loved that quote all these years. How do we get that seed thought? What creates that dream that is a potential for a lived truth in our lives? It is that vast realm of thought where the soul meets God. It happens within ourselves. And there's a God voice that is greater than any other voice. It is a voice of truth. It even has reasoning in it. And it is from that place that somebody sat one day and had a vision or a dream or imagined about constructing a cathedral. That person listened to that voice, even with people that doubted, the naysayers that said it couldn't be done. People that went to their graves because it took hundreds of years to build a huge cathedral. People would go to their graves laughing at that one. But the one that started it, who never even saw it to completion, captured the vision and planted the seed and followed through with the action so that it could be created. We have to let go of the lesser thoughts in order to harvest the greater thoughts. Now, when I think about all of these things and the way spiritual principles, the laws that keep the universe in order, when I think of how all these things work, how does that seed thought happen? What I know is that there is some inner intelligence that sparks to life. And everybody here, everybody listening to these words, We've all had those experiences, those aha moments where something sparks to life that happens within us and we don't even know where the thought came from. We tap into new ideas, and it is as though we pull it from the invisible ethers and we think about it and we ponder it and we begin to believe it's possible, and things then begin to come into form. Because within, in that vast realm where the soul meets God, that's where spirit knows. And that's the voice we can listen to. This is the way peace is born on the planet. We have concerns, all of us care about the well-being of the planet and the way people are treated. But peace is born by one tiny little seed thought at a time. And that's why so many people in this room and even listening online know the words to that peace song, because we have been believing those words for a long, long time. Yes, the song could have been written in a pitch that we could sing easier. No, but you agree, right? I mean, that is a hard song to sing. I've had to lead that. I'm not a singer. I think I am some days, as you know. But yeah, that's a hard song. I have to start really, really low to get to the end of that song and to help people do it. But peace is a seed that we plant, each and every one of us. It is an individual commitment that we make. And it starts from that withinness. It starts where we recognize we have to let go of the lesser thought. We have to quit pondering the opposite of peace. We have to quit thinking that it's not possible. We have to let that frustration that we have step aside so that we can have the greater thought. That we can be a part of bringing peace onto this planet by managing our own continents, by choosing peace for our own lives. I like that idea of how things happen because of a seed thought and the way life evolves and is always changing. And one of the things that crossed my mind while I was writing this message was that my parents were such a great example of how things can change and be better. My mother and my father were each one of 9 children. I don't know how they found each other. Because that'd be the only other person that could understand what your life was like to marry somebody with that similar background. My parents were married for 50 years before my mother passed. And my parents were very humble in the way that they were raised and grew up. They lived in homes that are barely considered, wouldn't be considered home now. They were poor. And sometimes my mom and dad would have these fake fights, but I don't think my mom was faking it. I think she was really always fighting. And they would argue over who was more poor when they were growing up. And my dad would always win because he'd go, "Annie, you had a cow. We didn't have a cow." 9 kids. And my mother was the third to the youngest. So she was what does that make her, 6th or 7th born? 7th, 8th, 9th. She was the 7th born. 7th, 8th, 9th, yes. My mother was the 7th born. My father was the 5th born, right in the middle. And when my mother turned 18 years old, she left Ohio. That's where they lived. Now, what I haven't told you yet is that my mother's parents were Russian immigrants that immigrated to a small town in Ohio. I don't know how they ended up in Ohio, but they ended up in Ohio in a little Russian village, and they never even needed to learn to speak English. So that was the environment that my mother was raised in. And none of her siblings had left that environment until my mother left Ohio when she was 18 years old, just a kid. And she went to Southern California, where she met my dad. she knew one person in Southern California. Now, they always say my mom was a Spitfire, and I'm a lot like her, apparently. I can't imagine how you would leave home at 18 and never look back. And she did a really good job, and she met my dad, and my dad was a plasterer. My dad was in construction, and they just had 2 children. They didn't want a big family. You can understand why. And they gave us a really beautiful life, just me and my sister. We didn't know how humble our life was because they made us feel like we were really wealthy. And I think I thought that for a long time. And it was stunning to get married and find out that there were other ways of living and lifestyles. Now, fast forward to the end of my mother's life, about 30 years ago, we helped her leave the planet with a hospice environment. And my sister and I left our own homes, and we moved in with my mom and dad and took care of both of them for those 3 months. And there came a point where it was time to put mom in the hospital bed in the living room. And she had a problem with being in the hospital bed in the living room. The problem was she did like being in the center of things. I think that was fun for her. But she didn't have a phone. She wanted a telephone by her bed. And so my husband, by trade, that was something he used to be a lineman for the county. He climbed telephone poles for Pac Bell for a while before he got into bigger and better things, before he let go of the lesser and latched on to the greater. So my husband wired a telephone next to her bed, and she was so happy. Oh my gosh, she was so happy. She had so much joy. She was in bed. She got this exuberance, she just got this energy that she hadn't had in a while. And she was a little bit teary, and she said out loud, "Who would have thought little Annie Louise would grow up and have 4 telephones in her house?" I had a byline at the time, so I wrote an article, and I asked the paper if they would submit it as a tribute to my mother, and they did. Because in that moment, I had this experience of recognizing that my mom wasn't bragging about having 4 phones. My mom was acknowledging that she had given up the lesser in order to have the greater, that she had done something with her life, even if it wasn't a title or money or prestige. She was proud in the best way possible. And while I watched that, and while I'm trying to process this, because you do a lot of processing when you're helping somebody in hospice and somebody you love is getting ready to cross over. And what I realized was I had had a lot of judgments about my own childhood and about my parents, like everybody does, right? And that I had dedicated my life to do better than my parents did for me. But that's what my parents did, right? That my parents wanted to do better. And then if you look back the next generation, it overwhelms me to imagine that my Russian grandmother and my Russian grandfather, who did not meet in Russia, they met in Ohio. That they got on boats as young people and crossed an ocean to give their hope to their future that would be better than the life that they had. So it's so potent for me to see that there's a pattern here, that it's just normal. And if you never had kids, you've probably had pets. And you can relate in the same way to the way right? I see people shaking their head. We just know these things. Now, here's where it gets funny. I have grandchildren having babies now. Ain't it great? Yes, I have 10 grandchildren, and now I have 5 great-grands. Because we had twins. Some of it happened fast. The pattern has not changed. What I notice is that my grandchildren are doing everything they can to raise their kids so that their kids have a better life than they had. And what they don't get is their moms and dads did the same thing because they wanted to be different than us. Right? So there's this pattern that goes on and that goes on. And here's what it makes me think. There's this evolution of life. I love studying about it. There's this way that everything in the universe is in perfect order. And it seems to me that we humans, forgive me in advance, we seem to be motivated so often by what we think is wrong, or what we think has been done to us that wasn't done well or could have been done better. And I'm starting to wonder if those ways in which we try to course correct our lives are really sort of divine nudges. What if it's just a way that life always steps up? That in life, in nature, there's never less, there's always more. If there's less, nature will overcompensate in other ways to reestablish a balance. That's what happens with storms and volcanoes and things that humans do to the planet. And the reason that happens is because there's something within us that knows. Something in that vast realm of thought where the soul meets God. Something knows. Let go. Let go of the lesser. Holmes said, in line with that idea of the way nature and life are always evolving, Holmes said, time heals all wounds. It adjusts all conditions. It explains all facts. Time alone satisfies the expanding soul, reconciling the visible with the invisible. The patterns we don't see at first. In fact, many people don't see them at all. But every mistake could be considered a God-given opportunity. Every choice gives us an opportunity to choose the greater over the lesser. If the story of your life, the story you tell, when you're meeting people for the first time and you're trying to get to know people and you start asking questions to dig in a little deeper to get a sense of who they are, if the story you tell in those situations still is about your woundedness from your past, it may be that you've settled for the lesser. And I want to say this morning that it's never too late to change the storyline. It's never too late because we are always co-creating our life story with a wisdom that is higher, that is deeper than we are. So we're rewriting the script in the same way we tried to give our kids a better life than they had, or our pets a better life than somebody else might be able to give them. In those very same ways, we know that it's never too late to change. And I know sometimes it's hard because it feels like that's all you've got. That's who you are. But when we take our wounds to God, we are taking our pain and our hurts and the things and ways in which we believe we've been wronged. We are taking those things to a divine illumination. And therefore our wounds can be transformed. There's that great process that we call alchemy, where something happens that's purely divine. And in a physical way, it's transformational for us, as well as emotional and mental. See, there's a cure. There's a cure. It's a really simple cure. It's just that we have trouble with it. The cure is forgiveness. We don't like that word. I really want to invent a new word. I'll let you know once I do it. It has to be a new word, though, because any other old word we know will have something attached to it. Forgiveness goes, if you're teaching a class and there's a week on forgiveness, that's when everybody will be absent. The only thing people in classwork hate more than forgiveness is death. People will avoid those topics no matter what. But forgiveness, if seen in a new way, we can begin to understand that it's more about acceptance. It's not about turning the other cheek. It's not about being vulnerable so you might be wounded again. It has nothing to do with any of that. The acceptance is about realizing that we too make mistakes and that there are people in all of our lives, there are people that think we have mistreated them in some way. There's ways we bump into each other, so we often say we're smoothing down those rough edges. But the thing about forgiveness is we're always making somebody else wrong. That's the part we're going to have to let go of. Emma Curtis Hopkins, my favorite Christian mystic. Do you notice I never say her name without saying my favorite Christian mystic? Because I just can't. Emma said this interesting statement. She said, if God is forgiving, then we must be for receiving. See, that's the kind of acceptance I'm talking about. If God is forgiving, giving us, giving the grace, giving the light, giving the love, always freely available to us. If God is doing that, then we must be for receiving that. And when we accept that, we can begin to accept that people, all people, are doing the best they can with the tools they have. And when we know better, we do better. So to receive God's grace and God's peace and that deep inner peace, to know that peace is at the center of everything, we have to start forgiving each other. To see that, just like me, that person's doing the best they can. That I've made mistakes. We all make mistakes. And then hopefully we do it better the next time we try it. And when we start knowing that, when we start just playing in that realm, our whole perspective will begin to change. So the only way to true peace will involve a piece of the way we have to stop making each other wrong. Take a breath. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear it or to personalize it. But I think it's spot on that there's a way that we're judgmental or we accuse each other of things or we defend our old stories. I don't know why I do that. But I do. I hang on to some of my stories like I won't be me if they go away. And maybe I won't be. But we can be better than we are. And so I do believe, and I have been saying this for a long time, this year especially, and I've been saying it especially loud the last couple of months. I do believe that peace is being born anew on this planet right now. And I believe that we as human beings are ripe with potential to practice forgiveness in a brand new way. I mean, I want to invite you to think about this morning. And this is the work I'm leaving you with before I go on vacation. Can we tune into our own lives? Can we be courageous enough? We don't have to cross an ocean. We don't have to do better than our parents did. But can we be courageous enough to turn within and seek to uncover within ourselves any place, any person, anything that we have not forgiven Because when you realize there probably is a couple things in there that you could still look at, what we begin to realize is where there's anyone where we have not fully made peace with yet in terms of our past history, then that means that there's someone or something, some place in our own heart where we are withholding love. And when you withhold love from anyone, you are withholding it from yourself. You are withholding it from being able to flow in this planet and be a part of the healing that is just right on the edge of emerging. So as this year comes to a close, that's my question for all of us. Where in our own hearts are we withholding love? Who do you need to forgive? What situation do you need to see from a different perspective? See, what I ask myself, that question, where have you withheld love and from whom? Ooh, that makes it real personal. You know, maybe it's a family member who let you down somehow. Maybe it's a coworker who doesn't seem to do their share of the work. Maybe it's a neighbor that voted for the wrong candidate. And you just can't understand why. This, my friends, is why I believe we are on the verge of seeing peace in a new way, because we got to let some of that hatred go away. We got to find that place of forgiveness in our own heart. And if you can't do forgiveness, just look at a tiny little sliver of acceptance. Accept that everyone is doing the best they can right now. And then have that desire in your heart to have a seed thought that's higher than a thought you've had in the past. Because if God is forgiving, then we must be for receiving. So let's be open to receiving that higher view. And I want to close this morning with that same quote I started with. Above the wind, enshrined in the heart of God, there is a voice within you that says, peace. Do not be afraid. And that's the final thing I wanted to say to you this year. Let's take it to prayer. Take a breath, a holy breath. And feel the life within you quicken. Set aside all the things that happened as the words were spoken this morning. Pay attention to the way that Spirit was nudging you. But let it sit aside for a minute, because if God is forgiving, then we must be for receiving. So we open ourselves now to become conduits, to be vessels, to receive that grace, to open our hearts and our minds, and to know again, this is the day. This is the day that God has made, so that we might recognize we are standing at this edge of possibility, that peace is right where we are. But the only way it can come to this planet is in that way that we let go of the lesser and we open to the greater. It starts with a single thought, so we know that our minds have been cleansed as we have considered new possibilities. We know that what we leave as vacant, God can then fill with that divine illumination. That we are restored to peace in those moments where we are willing to stand in the stillness or sit in the holiness. We know that these words of prayer are powerful, that we speak these words of affirmation to recall that God is love, that God is beauty and peace and goodness, and that these things are flowing and moving through life, that we are expanding our consciousness even in this moment. In these words of prayer, there is something within us that is stretching into greater and greater possibilities. So we are a part of the healing that is happening on the planet. We do not hang on to the past, and we take any sense of woundedness, our pain, our hurts, our sorrow, and we put it on the altar so that God can purify it, that our load will be lightened, that our lives will be hopeful and filled with possibility. I feel the love of God within me. And I know that it is the same stirring within every individual within the sound of my voice. That there is something that is healing that which ails us, that is lifting us to see our own lives from a new perspective. I feel that love, and I know it is a mighty force of spirit. And so I know that there's so much to be grateful for. We start always by counting our blessings, by being grateful for the incredible, miraculous way our bodies know how to heal from what ails us. That no matter what we go through in our relationships, that the healing presence of Spirit itself is always available so that we might restore those relationships to love, to caring and kindness, that we might grow and indeed smooth out our rough edges so that we can fit together better. And so I am grateful for this year ending in the beauty and the holiness of life with a renewed mind. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for all of this and for all the blessings that are yet to come. I release these words into the law, knowing it is already done. And together we say, and so it is.
Grateful, 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 grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Well, thank you, Bradfords. We are grateful. And we're grateful Reverend Karen's going to be out for 3 weeks. Yay! No, we're celebrating with you. Yeah. All right, now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our life and the abundance of our community. So we have our donation and tithe boxes in the back of the room on the way into the fellowship. So we have food and after service and also out in the bookstore. So we appreciate your tithes, your gifts, anything that supports our community. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And so it is.
Please rise for our last song.
It feels so good to be alive. Sing it with me. It feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. And sing it. It feels so good to be alive. It feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. It feels so good to be alive. It feels so good to be alive. One more time. It feels so good to be alive.
Yes, it does. Feels good to be alive moving into 2025. Here it is. All right, so let's say our closing affirmation. Repeat after me. I am rooted in peace. And experience life from the inside out.
And experience life from the inside out.
And so it is.
So it is.